Hello again, my friends. I hope you are doing well. As I always make sure that that's a point that I have made, and I believe I have made that point in my previous conversations. We just want to recap some of the points that we've been working on in our podcast. As you recall, I shared with you some time ago that I am looking at and studying and reviewing, researching how the technological revolution and its subsequent industry is creating a wave of what I call of a wave of dents through noise, and that's how I'm interpreting this whole cataclysmic issues around the world, looking at them from a noise perspective. And so I have identified 7 different type of noise, one of which I have entitled the distractive noise. And the distractive noise, it's a noise that doesn't sleep. You know that they get tired, they don't strain their vocal cord, and they keep up at a constant, and they're inescapable. They're very hard to escape. And that is the distractive noise makers, I call them. There's another group I call the discontent noise makers. These are a group who are discontent, who are making a discontentive noise. They're discontent with everything in the world, everything in their lives, everything they're experiencing. They're discontent with it, and they're making a noise of discontent. We also identified what I call the rejective noise makers. These are a group who rejecting every fundamental principle that we have adhered to for thousands of years, and these rejective noise makers are making a noise by rejecting every fundamental principle, some of which include our foundational values. And so they are the rejective noise makers. This type of noise maker's intention is to reject and remove and replace all foundational principle in ethics, logic, and reason that have sustained mankind for thousands and thousands of years. The rejective noise makers. There's another group that I call the contentious noise makers. There's a group who's contented with everything that is logic, everything that is pure, everything that is sacred, everything that is holy, everything that is reasonable. They are become the contentious noise makers. And I promise you, when I identify those groups, it's very likely you will see those noise makers in the categorical point that I have describing them. There's another group that are very interesting in my view, as far as I can tell, which I call them the pretentious noise makers. There's a group that pretend they have the best interests of mankind at heart, but they are pretentious. They're wearing a mask, pretend that they're concerned about our youth, that they're concerned about children, that they're concerned about our family, that they're concerned about the world. They are very pretentious. They are unreal. They are fake. They're not real. There's nothing real about the pretentious noise makers. There's another group that is very peculiar. I call them the silent noise makers. The silent noise makers, heartbreaking. When I identify them with you, I hope you're willing to see the plight of these silent noise makers. And the last group I have identified is what I call the deconstructive noise makers. The deconstructive noise makers are designed to deconstruct every structure, every fabric, every element, every institutions, every traditions that known to men, that known to mankind, I should say. And they deconstruct every fundamental principle, every fabric, every element that we know that threaten our human experience. These deconstructive noise makers' intention is to deconstruct, and by so doing, they're rejecting every natural law, every natural instinct, whereby we have become a people that feel isolated, as I mentioned in this cosmic. But for this particular thought I want to share with you today, I want to ask you a question that I know you can relate to. Why is man so unhappy? Yes, why is men so unhappy? Why is women so angry? Why is young people so discontent and dissatisfied with themselves? Why is our children are so unsettled in their ways and whereby? Why our family is so unstable? Here's a series of why for you, and I hope you begin to put the pieces together with regard to the noisemakers I'm talking about. But let's stay with the point I want to make today. Why is man so unhappy? And if I want to be more specific, why is the American man is so unhappy? Well, we can answer this question very briefly today. We can say that because all men are getting sad. Men are very unhappy around the world, and the American man is very unhappy. And so we want to look at that in a great detail next time I talk to you. Why is men so unhappy? Why women are so angry? Why is young people are so dissatisfied with themselves? Why is our young children are so unsettled mentally, emotionally, and psychologically? And it appeared that studies have shown that men might be the unhappiest that they have ever been in the history of the world. There is a reason for that, my friend, and you and I should look into that men are the unhappiest that they ever been in the history of the world. And many causes have been cited in the literature for this recent slide of male dissatisfaction, man unhappy. Man is getting a blunt of criticism for just being a man. And so we want to look at that. And I want you to ponder that question as we addressed it in the form of noisemakers, those who accuse man of things, those who are blaming man of things. I know many have held on to the idea of patriarchal, yes, a male dominant world. We understand that history, and I am not ignoring those. But why is man has been blamed for so many things, and why is man is so unhappy by those destructive, deconstructive, and pretentious, as well as these rejective noisemakers who are blaming man for their plight, for their sorrow, and for their misery. And so we want to look at those. And so why is man in the history of the world are being so unhappy? Everything from 24 hours, news cycle, the economy, the decline of sex, marriage, family, religion, causing man to ask this question, why is man so unhappy? And my friend, I hope you've been listening to this thought that I've been sharing with you. I hope you've been listening. And if you haven't, let me close this thought by telling you, listen, because I'm coming to share with you some thought. I know there's a bunch of people out there who are saying all kinds of things to us. They are noisemakers. That's what they are. They're not solving, they're not addressing, they're not even identifying some of the cause and effect of some of the things that are going on in the world. And so let me implore you, let me encourage you, and let me ask you one more time. Listen.